Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast. That is, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot here on Potomac Watch with Kim Strassel and Kyle Peterson. And we're going through the results on Super Tuesday. Nikki Haley's future uncertain. She did endorse Trump ultimately, but she didn't foreclose that. And I think in the end, if Trump makes some gesture, she probably will endorse him. That would be the best bet, I think, to preserve a path to a post-Trump presidency if she wants to run again. But, there's also an argument for not doing it, Kim, which would be to say, look, if he doesn't do enough to get me there, then I'm just not going to do it. And particularly considering some of the harsh things she has said about his leadership and policies. I suspect, Kim, that this contest has essentially blocked any chance that Trump would put her on the ticket because he just doesn't like to do that. He likes to dominate people. That's the thing about Trump. He likes you to, as he puts it so often, bend the knee. As he put it when John Thune endorsed him, the senator from South Dakota, they always bend the knee. And if you don't bend the knee, he resents it. And I think that is probably one of the causes for his outburst on Truth Social, saying that Haley got trounced on Wednesday. I think Haley has carved out a place for herself in the party. And if Trump loses, the Republicans will have a big old Donnybrook about where they go as a party. And she would be part of that debate.
Yeah, look, I think she blew up the Veep bridge a long time ago when she decided to really go after him on a personal leadership style and continue criticizing him on everything from cognitive ability to his personality. She also said that she wasn't angling for that. And we can see how the other candidates who got out, they were very careful even in the race not to burn the same kind of bridges because they wanted to hold out that possibility of getting named on a ticket. I think you're right that she's being very shrewd and not immediately endorsing him. And notably, what I think she's trying to do is to get him to give a nod at least or agree that some of the main issues that she campaigned on need to have a bigger voice in his own campaign. And she laid those out in her speech today as she said she was suspending. They basically come down to national debt and spending, the need for Republicans to do that, congressional dysfunction, and the need for Republicans to re-embrace regular order and working for the people, and then the need to step away from American retreat and again be a strong voice in foreign policy. We'll see how many of those, if any of them, Trump moves on, but she was pretty clear that what she'd like to see in order to endorse him. And you're right. Look, if he ends up losing, she will have positioned herself very well and also enunciated very well those differences and some of the concerns that holdout Haley voters had with Donald Trump's current direction.
All right, let's turn to some of the other notable results. A couple of things from the West Coast, pretty interesting. San Francisco had a quality of life reform initiatives on the ballot, drug screening for welfare benefits, letting police conduct car chases. They passed, and overwhelmingly. Also pass an initiative encouraging public middle schools to offer algebra. I know that's a radical idea, but the school board had said, oh, no, we're not going to do that because of equity reasons, because algebra is apparently discriminatory against minorities. That has now been repudiated, even though this doesn't have a binding effect. It was certainly a rebuke to the school board. And the quality of life issues here, Kaya, coming to the fore, which suggests that maybe San Francisco doesn't have the suicide impulse that it has been demonstrating in recent years.
Yeah, I think the crime issue motivates voters in a way that can cross partisan divides. Keep an eye also on the Los Angeles district attorney race there. The incumbent George Gascon is up by only about 4 points. And of course, it's California. It takes forever for it to count and get through its ballot. So only half of the vote is in there. But interesting that an incumbent who is running an election like that, he's at about 21% of the vote only. And that is not a place you would want to be comfortably.
It was a multi-candidate race, though.
Right. And so that's a fascinating result as well. I would also point to the Texas races that we talked about on yesterday's podcast, the Governor Greg Abbott endorsing state legislative candidates who want to pass a educational savings account plan that had been blocked by the legislature. And as of the results I was seeing this morning, 8 pro-school choice candidates have now been elected, defeating incumbents. And so that could be enough to get this school choice plan across the line. I think it's a vindication of Greg Abbott's choice to play in those primaries in a way and kind of follow the strategy blazed by Kim Reynolds, the governor of Iowa.
Kim, you want to add anything on that? I mean, I also saw there was an initiative on the ballot in Texas, Prop 11, saying Texas parents and guardians should have the right to select schools, whether public or private, for their children, and the funding should follow the student. It passed with 75.4% of the vote in Texas.
Yeah, it was a big night for school choice in Texas. And by the way, good for Greg Abbott for stepping out and doing that. Kyle noted 8 who have already lost. 2 more, I should note, are in runoffs. So depending on how this plays out, Greg Abbott could end up with 10 new votes for his educational savings plans in this next legislative session. Also, 3 GOP members of the State Board of Elections who had taken positions that did not sit well with voters. One of them is likely to lose their seat. 2 more, it looks like they'll be in runoffs. So again, this was a huge day. And I would note too that a lot of these, and this ought to send a message, a lot of the holdouts in this were rural Texas legislators, Republicans, whose attitude was, we got pretty good schools here and our public schools aren't as bad as those inner city schools. And we're going to protect the local school establishment. That did not sit well with Republican voters, including in those areas. And so I think this is a really strong message because quite aside from those who actually lost their seat, when you have a victory like this and such a shockwave, those who did vote against his educational savings accounts and who kept their jobs, nonetheless might have a different view on how they're going to vote going forward, lest they be next.
Right. Interesting results, encouraging results out in a couple of the states, no matter the drama at the presidential level. Less than inspiring. But thank you, Kim. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you all for listening. We're here every day on Potomac Watch, and we're off and running in the presidential race. Please check in with us every day to follow the ins and outs.